Before we begin, make sure you're subscribed, leave a comment with your thoughts as this story unfolds, and hit like if you're ready to step into one of the most disturbing family crime cases investigators have faced in years. The house was silent when the first patrol car rolled to a stop. No screaming neighbors, no flashing lights from inside, just a quiet, ordinary suburban home standing under a cold January sky. But behind that front door, something irreversible had already happened. At 3:20 a.m., police responded to a frantic emergency call. Inside an upstairs bedroom, they found a man lying motionless in his bed. He had been shot. There were no signs of forced entry, no struggle, no broken windows. The scene suggested something far more unsettling than a random act of violence. This wasn't an intruder. This was personal. The victim was identified as 42-year-old Douglas, a father, a husband, a man described by neighbors as strict but devoted. Hours earlier, the family had gone to bed after what should have been a normal night. Birthday candles had been blown out, voices had quieted, doors had closed. But somewhere between bedtime and the arrival of police, the line between discipline and tragedy had been crossed. As investigators secured the scene, a child stood downstairs, trembling. He was only 11 years old. He was Douglas's son. Detectives quickly realized the danger of the moment wasn't over, not because the suspect was on the run, but because understanding what had happened meant confronting something few people are prepared to face: the possibility that the person responsible never truly grasped the weight of what he had done. Earlier that evening, the boy's Nintendo Switch had been taken away as punishment. To most families, it would have been a forgettable argument, a temporary consequence. But according to early statements, the boy became consumed with anger. He couldn't sleep. He believed the device had been locked away somewhere in the house. Sometime after midnight, he left his room. Investigators would later piece together a chilling timeline. The boy searched quietly, opening drawers, moving through the dark until he found a key. He thought it would lead him to his game console. Instead, it opened a gun safe. When police asked him why he kept going, the answer was simple and terrifying. He was angry, and he didn't stop to think about what came next. The weapon was loaded. The house was still. Douglas never woke up. When officers arrived, the boy reportedly ran toward them, crying, repeating words no parent ever expects to hear spoken by a child. The investigation shifted instantly from a homicide scene to a psychological and legal nightmare. How does a family reach this point? Was this a moment of rage or something building quietly for years? And most haunting of all, was this tragedy preventable? As investigators searched the bedroom, they noticed something that didn't fit. A detail so small it could have been overlooked, yet so disturbing it stopped the room cold. Because the gun wasn't returned to the safe. It had been placed somewhere deliberate, and when they realized where it was found, everything about this case took a darker turn. The gun was found downstairs, placed carefully on the kitchen counter, wiped clean. That detail alone shifted the entire investigation. This wasn't chaos, it wasn't panic. It suggested intention, or at least an attempt to understand consequences after the fact. Detectives exchanged looks. An 11-year-old had not only accessed a firearm, but also taken steps that implied awareness, however limited, of what had just occurred. For investigators, the house itself became a witness.
They walked room to room, photographing open drawers, the unlocked gun safe, the boy's bedroom where toys sat untouched, frozen in time. On the nightstand, birthday cards were stacked neatly beside a half-eaten cupcake. The contrast was unbearable. Celebration and death under the same roof, separated by only a few hours. Downstairs, the boy sat wrapped in a blanket, eyes hollow, his feet barely touching the floor. A child psychologist was called in immediately. This wasn't an interrogation in the traditional sense. Every question was measured, careful. They needed answers, but they also needed to understand the mind behind the act. He spoke quietly. He said he was angry. He said his father wouldn't listen. He said he just wanted his Nintendo Switch back. When asked if he knew the gun could kill someone, there was a pause, then a nod. When asked if he thought his father would die, his voice cracked. He said he didn't think about it at all. Investigators noted something else. The boy didn't cry when talking about the argument. He cried when talking about afterward, when talking about realizing his father wasn't waking up. As the hours passed, detectives dug into the family's history. Teachers were contacted, neighbors were interviewed, social services records were reviewed. What they found wasn't abuse in the traditional sense, but something more complicated. Reports of behavioral struggles, emotional regulation issues, prior warnings from school counselors that the boy needed support beyond standard discipline. Some neighbors described Douglas as strict, old school, firm about rules. Others said he was loving but overwhelmed, trying to raise a child who seemed to swing between affection and explosive anger. No one imagined it would end like this. Then came the legal reality. In that state, the law allowed children as young as 10 to be charged in homicide cases. Suddenly, the question wasn't just what happened, but what happens next. Could a child truly understand intent? Could he be held accountable the same way as an adult? Or was this a systemic failure wrapped in a single moment of rage? As detectives prepared the evidence list, another detail surfaced, one that sent a ripple through the room. The gun safe key hadn't been hidden. It had been left in a place the boy knew to look, a drawer he'd opened before, a drawer within reach. Responsibility began to fracture in multiple directions. The case was no longer just about a child and a weapon. It was about access, about warning signs, about the thin line between discipline and disaster. And just when detectives believed they understood the sequence of events, a new discovery emerged from the digital trail left behind that night. Because hidden on a device in the house was something no one expected to find. And it suggested that the anger didn't begin that evening. It had been building for much longer. The digital evidence changed everything. On a tablet recovered from the living room, investigators uncovered a search history that painted a far darker emotional landscape than anyone expected. Late-night queries about punishment, anger, and consequences. Questions typed in fragmented sentences, as if written by someone struggling to put overwhelming feelings into words. It wasn't a plan, it wasn't a confession, but it was proof that the night of the shooting was not an isolated eruption. It was the breaking point. Psychologists reviewing the case came to a difficult conclusion. The child had not fully understood death, but he understood power. He understood fear. And in that moment, with a weapon in his hands and anger clouding his judgment, the balance of control in the house shifted in a way no child should ever experience. The courtroom proceedings were closed to the public, but the weight of them echoed far beyond those walls. Prosecutors argued that a life had been taken and that the law demanded accountability. Defense experts countered that this was a child with unresolved emotional struggles placed in a home where lethal force was accessible during a moment of distress. Douglas's family sat silently as details were read aloud. The argument over a game, the unlocked safe, the shot fired into the quiet of a sleeping house. Each word landed like a second loss. In the end, the court faced an impossible balance: justice for a father who would never come home, and mercy for a child whose life had already been irrevocably altered. The judge ruled that the boy would remain in juvenile custody, placed in a secure treatment facility rather than an adult prison, rehabilitation over retribution, monitoring over punishment. Some called it too lenient, others said it was the only humane choice. The house was eventually emptied, toys were boxed, photographs removed. The bedroom where Douglas died was sealed and later renovated, as if new paint could erase what happened there. Neighbors moved on, but not without lingering fear. parents locked gun safes twice, some removed firearms entirely, others whispered about warning signs they hadn't recognized until it was too late. Years will pass before the boy fully understands the gravity of that night. Some experts say he never truly will. The memory will follow him into adulthood, shaping every relationship, every decision, every moment of anger that rises unexpectedly. And that may be the most haunting part of all. This case wasn't driven by hatred or greed. It wasn't a calculated crime or a cold-blooded act. It was a collision of emotion, access, and a single irrevocable decision made by someone too young to comprehend its finality. One household destroyed, two lives forever defined by a moment that lasted less than a second. And somewhere between discipline and disaster lies a question no court can fully answer. How many tragedies begin with warning signs we choose to ignore? If this story left you unsettled, remember, it's not the last time a family argument turned fatal, and the next case waiting to be told may be even closer to home.